We are Duck Hunting Fanatics, knee deep in the duck blind. If it flies, it dies. Only Duck Hunting Fanatics know what it feels like to see a brightly colored Drake mallard cup its wings and soar towards your decoys. It's what we do, and it's what we love. Duck Hunting Fanatics, with boots on the ground, eyes in the skies reports. And we get it from professional duck guides all across the country. We interview them for their top tips and tricks from their years of experience from the duck hunting blind. This is Duck Hunting Fanatics, and this is Eric Wilkes.
Greetings, friends and fellow Duck Hunting Fanatics. Eric Wilkes here with another episode of Knee Deep in the Duck Blind. And today we have Mitch Petrie with us, who is the VP of the Outdoor Sportsman Group. So, again, Mitch, thanks for being here, man. Really appreciate it and super excited to have you on.
Love it. I just appreciate the opportunity to talk about hunting and TV and whatever else you want to talk about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we can talk about all of it. So, I know we were just kind of chatting a little bit beforehand, and I want to circle back to it because I know you just had an experience and you took your kids up to Saskatchewan. Tell us a little bit about hunting in Saskatchewan, first of all, and tell us about that experience with your kids.
Yeah, and it's actually it was probably 10 years ago when we did the trip. Maybe I have to do the math, probably about 10 years ago. My oldest son, who's now 22, his buddy, I picked my son up at his buddy's place, and they had photos on the table, giant piles of geese. And I had hunted in Minnesota. I'm out of Minneapolis. I'd field hunted here and done some around here, but I'd never been to Saskatchewan. I told the guys that that's kind of my dream hunt, and he said, "Let's go." And like 3 months later, I found myself driving with my two oldest kids out of three, who were pretty young. And I mentioned it's probably a tactical error to take your kids on their first ever duck and goose hunt up to Saskatchewan. In one respect, it was amazing because we had great action. It wasn't like slam dunk easy. I mean, we still had to work for some. But on one morning, of course, it took about probably 3 hours to set up, and in 38 minutes to get to kind of get our full limits and that. But super cool. And then we had several kids with us, so even afterwards it was fun. The kids got to call in ducks and learn about it. But yeah, ever since then it's been hard to live up to that first Saskatchewan hunt for my kids.
Yeah, and we've had a couple of episodes where we talk about managing expectations, and you can't expect to fill your limit every time you go out. You gotta just take a minute to enjoy the outdoors, and it's tough getting that experience up there, and then you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is what duck hunting is always like, and it's just not.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a testament to the work that you guys put in, right? You spent 3 hours getting everything set up and 38 minutes, like you said, to limit out. So that's
right.
Amazing right there. But, I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is the amount of work and effort sometimes that goes in just to get ready for a hunt and to have that opportunity. So,
yeah,
that's a lot of fun. And as I understand it, Mitch, you just got a new gun dog, and is it Luna?
Absolutely. Yep. Luna is my black lab. It's my first ever hunting dog. I've hunted over a lot of dogs with good friends who put a lot of effort into their dogs. But, the pandemic has allowed me to work here from home, which is really nice. And so I have a lot of opportunity to hang out with her. We picked her up in August, worked with Tom and Tina Dokken and Mike Wieben out of Oak Ridge Kennels in Minnesota, who I had worked with previously when I worked for a TV producer named Ron Shera, who has a famous black lab for us in the upper Midwest, if you know Ron and Raven. And, and it really was a multi-year project. Like I didn't just call him and say, hey, I need a dog. Boom, here's a dog. It was like probably 5 years, no exaggeration, 5 years in the making, and then kind of got serious the last couple of years, and then really put a deposit down on a puppy in a specific litter that Tom and Tina had recommended, and ended up picking up our puppy last year at the game fair in Minnesota, which is kind of the unofficial kickoff to fall here. And now we didn't go there and buy a puppy. We actually had gone through that process, and they just happened to take delivery of the puppy up there. Kept her for several months and sent her down to Oak Ridge Kennels for her, introduction to gun and guns and birds, which was a lot of fun, and came back. And man, she is a very driven hunting dog. She's 70 pounds, and I had her scheduled for just a 2-month kind of all-in obedience and hunting training. And I called Mike Wieben and I said, any chance you can maybe get her in a week or two early? Because this dog, she went through this phase where she was compliant and pretty obedient to, now she didn't want to listen to me. I had her on a leash, and we were out on a frozen lake because I could throw a ball for her and get her to run, and her collar came off, and I had to essentially trick her into going into somebody else's house because she wouldn't come to me and I couldn't catch her. But so we got her into obedience training. 2 months later, she comes out and she is just a happy, awesome member of our family. My wife, who tolerates our hunting and has participated, just not as much a hunter as we are. She wasn't super excited about having just a hunting dog. And we explained that, hey, hunting is kind of the reward. Her obedience is the foundation of her training, and she's just been so awesome for our family. We just love to have her. Now she's upstairs crying because we've got people in the house, and she wants to come down and play with us, I think.
Yeah, exactly. No, I can relate, man. I've got 2 hunting dogs myself. I've got a German short hair and I've got a Weimaraner lab mix, and both are just driven, awesome, amazing retrievers. Even outside of duck hunting and onto the upland side of the house, they're just so driven. And I'll tell you, I'm excited for you as your first gun dog. Once you have that first one and you start hunting and you start working together, and it's just as much fun going out and watching the dogs work and as it is.
For sure. Like I said, I've experienced that a lot with friends and that, but to have it be my own, and now to watch her progress, because she was trained by Mike Wieben over the winter, she didn't do much for the waterfowl in terms of, working in a boat or the water, retrieving and that. And she hadn't swam much before I left, just because it was just getting kind of cold. And so I actually took her down to a local lake here, and I was walking around, and another guy came with a black lab who was probably 4 or 5 years older than Luna, and clearly highly trained as a bird dog. And he had a dummy, and they walked by. We talked to the guy. They walked by. I took Luna to the lake. I had to physically, now 70 pounds, pick her up and kind of set her gently in the water, just up to kind of where her wrist would be, just to cool her off a little bit. Sure. This guy comes back and he threw the dummy into the water for his dog, and Luna went after it for a second. I got her to come back, and we ended up sitting on the shore and threw the dummy out. She went and essentially walked into the water on her own, and kind of plopped in the water, but came back and had done her first ever water retrieve. So then I threw it out there about 40, 50 feet, and she held perfectly on the shore, and she was excited. I released her to go for it. She did like a dock dog dive into the water. Like literally the first time she's ever jumped into the water. She plopped into the water, her paws in the water, right? And I know most of your listeners understand more than I do, like what she was doing. Like her butt was sinking as she was swimming. And She goes out, she reaches for the dummy, she grabs it, she turns, and it's like she figured it out. Her back end kind of floats up, and all of a sudden she was swimming with all 4 legs, and she was cruising, and she came up and she did like the most, she's not 100% perfect, but she did the absolute perfect just retrieve. She came right into heel for me. She held, she didn't even shake. And then I reach over and I grab the dummy and drop, and she says, say drop, and she drops it. And the guy who looks over at me goes, that dog's 11 months old? I said, yeah. And I said, and you just witnessed her first water retrieve, and I'm glad somebody else other than me saw it, because it was super cool.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think, and it's awesome because I feel like a lot of times, right? And that's why pedigrees, I think, in this space, and I've had labs, right. I've had labs growing up as a kid. We always had a lab. Even today, right? I have a lab mix. I've always had some variation of a lab. I love the black lab. I love, we had a yellow lab growing up as a kid, and everything in between. And what I can say is, they either have it or they don't. There's really, there's no in between. There's no, it's black and white. They either have the drive and they're willing to go do it, or they don't. It's not, I feel like you can teach it to a degree, but they either have the drive or they don't.
That's what, working with a reputable, breeder, and Tom and Tina are, Tom literally wrote the book on, training Labradors, and that's what they preached as well, which was, we looked really hard for a dog that was, they want a dog that has that, pedigree, but it just has that drive, because they can train that dog with the drive. You can't train a dog without the drive to do things you would need it to do in the field. But she is driven for sure, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I think you're doing the right things really, and just working with her and continuing to work with her. And I think a lot of guys, you got to realize, for those of you that maybe don't have dogs or thinking about getting a dog, is like, it really comes down to instilling confidence in the dog and their ability, and just keep reinforcing the training, right? The training never ends. Any chance you get, even just running around and playing in the yard, you're still doing some training. Same with my dogs. I throw a dummy out all the time, or a lot of times they've got those new scents that you can inject into the dummies now. And oftentimes if I'm doing waterfowl or upland training, I'll just inject the scent, and then I'll go hide it in the yard somewhere and make them go find it, and use their nose again, just to keep reinforcing the training. But it really is, it's such a joy and such a pleasure. Really, I have just as much fun going out and watching my dog work. And you're hunting upland, and as soon as they hit that point and they just bang, they turn, and his head drops down and that tail goes up, and you're like, all right, he's on one. And you shoot that duck, and they're sitting there, and then there you can see him. My dog, especially when he knows a bird is down and he sees the bird goes down, he'll sit there and he'll start shaking, because he gets just so antsy and anxious and anticipation. And you're like, all right, you can't teach that drive and that excitement and make it work with just any dog. So it's just a ton of fun with it.
I've seen, and we can bore the heck out of your listeners, because I could talk about my dog all day long if you want to. But I will tell you that when I take her out now, because I live in Plymouth, Minnesota, I'm in a metropolitan area, and so I have a yard. I don't have a massive yard, but I have a good yard to work with her. And I'll take her out my back door in the garage and have her, that's where she kind of poops and pees, in that area. And then I have a little training platform. And she used to run out and then run to the platform. Well, now that it's springtime here, there's like robins and rabbits in my backyard. So now it's so cute where I'll let her out first thing in the morning, and she just slowly creeps around, because she's already hunting. Like, you open the door and she's looking in the backyard to see what she can see.
That's funny.
No, it's been a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. I'm actually thinking about, I've started a bit of an outline about writing an article about my experience, because one of the benefits of having my first gun dog at the age of 52 is, it's just a different experience. And I've had the ability to wait and to, have patience to find the right dog. And I've gone through that process of working with a trainer and then getting that dog back, because now it's like, I've said, she's trained. Now I have to work on my skills and my family skills, who are also, she's a resident in our house. And so it's a fun process. So, and then, the pandemic helped open the door. Like, the timing was right. If I were traveling every week like I used to, it would be a different story, but now I haven't had to travel so much.
Yeah. And that's awesome. And I think it's also a testament to not just the pedigree, but the training. And, if you got the right trainer, it really does. By 10, 11 months old, that dog's ready to hunt. They might not be fully finished. There's a lot of guys dub it, but if you're just a normal regular hunter and you're not trying to go get certifications, I know like there's the master hunter certification as well. If you're not trying to go get a master hunter certification, that dog is going to be plenty of fun over the hunt for many, 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 many years. And I have that same experience. I worked with a really strong pedigree and a really great, excellent trainer out of Dearborn, Missouri. And when I got first got my German short hair, I went, okay. And I remember going up to a preserve at the time just to get him out, because it was in the off season, but the preserve was still going when I lived in Arizona at the time. And I remember taking him out for the first time at the club that I hunted at all the time. And I remember a couple of the guides coming over to you, like, where'd you get that dog? Like, that dog's amazing. How old is that dog? Yeah, he's like 11 months old at the time. And they're like, wow. They're like, hey, you should get him certified as a master hunter and this and that. And I'm like, nah, that's not really my interest. My interest is just going out and having fun and hunting. So I think for most guys, that's the mentality, is like, we just want to go have fun, going hunting. And if we got a dog that started and can retrieve and flush and do everything that they need to do, from a duck hunting or an upland hunting standpoint, it's good enough. It's not worth trying to truly quote unquote finish them off. Just enjoy them and enjoy the time you have with them. It's hard to believe though. That's already been, I got to think, my dog's going to be I call him my puppy. He's not really my puppy, but he's going to be 10 this year. And then my lab, she's fully trained as well. She's going to be, like, I got to think, born in 07. So she's going to be 15 this year, and she's still getting out. Now, that said, she doesn't hunt near as much. She's gotten pretty smart. She lets the young guy go out and do all the work, and then she wants to run in and do the retrieves. She just kind of hangs out and lets him do all the work now. But it is fun. I can tell you, it's just an absolute blast. I can't stress it enough. If you're, for those of you that are listening, and I'm like you, Mitch, I could talk all day about my dogs and hunting over gun dogs. But maybe for those of you that are listening, if you're on the fence about getting one or thinking about getting one, just go do it, because I promise it'll change your life. It'll change the way you hunt. It'll change the way you experience the hunt. It just changes so much. And then they become great. They become like a member of the family. It's truly awesome. So
have you seen the TikTok videos of people that it's like, show me something you've spent way too much money on, but you have no regrets about? That's what I feel about my dog and about the training. Partly because, like, the pedigree that you pay for is you're getting quality animal, and the training is something so I'm not capable. I bet a lot of your listeners have trained all of their dogs. And like I said, I know enough, but I know enough to be dangerous, but I wouldn't be good. So I knew I needed to hire a quality trainer to do that. And it's worth every penny. I mean, we will benefit from that, really every day that we have her. I have a lot of things like in my gun safe that I spent a lot of money on that I won't benefit every single day from, but the dog has been, it's been a great investment.
Yeah. And that's a great way of putting it. And I feel that exact same way. So, well, Mitch, let's kind of shift gears here. Let's talk about Outdoor Sportsman Group for just a little bit. You're here and you're investing time with us. So again, we just want to thank you for that. Tell us what's going on at OSG, what's new for 2022, what you got cooking, because you guys got a number of brands that you work with, a number of websites that are out there. Just talk a little bit about OSG for a minute.
Yeah, it's never a dull moment at OSG, because we do have a lot going on. We run 4 television networks: Outdoor Channel, Sportsman Channel, and the World Fishing Network, and Sportsman Channel Canada. We also have our direct OTT platform called My Outdoor TV, which is a repository of some older content or episodes from really the top producers in this space. And on top of that, we do like 20 websites and 17 magazines. And I think your listeners might be most familiar with Gundog and Wildfowl, that kind of service this space. But others, like Bow Hunter Magazine and Peterson's Hunting, Firearms News, Guns and Ammo, In Fisherman. So a lot of endemic knowledge and expertise across all divisions of our company. So it is a pretty cool place to work. And I don't get paid to hunt or to fish, but I get a lot of opportunities to go out with some good people who really have helped me appreciate all the outdoor passions that are there. I've been a lifelong hunter and fisherman. So in many respects, it's a dream job, but the reality is it's still a job. I mean, we have different stress than most people, but we're also dealing with the pandemic and, social and economic issues, technology issues facing our business. So like I said, it's never a dull moment, but it's certainly not all hunting and fishing all the time for those of us who work at the network.
Yeah, and just one question about that, because obviously, you got the evolution of YouTube, and you get a lot of these guys now that were, that I see that are building their own YouTube followings. They're producing and creating their own shows. How is OSG adapting to the platform changes? Obviously you got My Outdoor TV. That's one of the big evolutions I've seen out of you guys over the last 4 or 5 years, and how that sort of exploded into the streaming world. But how are you guys as a whole adapting to the changing technology with the evolution of things like YouTube and social media?
So we have the My Outdoor TV platform. We have other technology that's built into that will allow us to do direct streaming of content, much like YouTube does. YouTube is in many respects a competitor for us, but it's also not a competitor. There's a lot of folks that are concerned about investing a lot of money into their brands and building them on YouTube when you don't know what YouTube's future is and how they support hunting and firearms ownership and things like that. So, and I don't want to, I'm not paranoid about that, but the reality is they don't support our lifestyle. So, our networks obviously are all in onto that lifestyle. And I think that what you'll see from us moving forward in the next probably 6 to 18 months is additional platforms that will give sportsmen and producers and talent the opportunity to get their content in front of our audiences. But really, we've amassed strong audiences. It's not wide open, like it's not the internet and billions of people can watch, but we have a smaller audience, but a higher quality audience. We know the demographic. We know that how much they spend on average on hunting equipment. We know they travel to hunt. We know they influence others in the purchase of hunting gear. So, we're really committed to being on all the relevant platforms we need to be with premium content. And I think you'll see a little bit more of that coming from us in the coming months.
Awesome. What do you see with hunting television? What do you see as hunting television's future?
If I had the exact right answer, I could probably retire like Elon Musk, even though he's probably not retiring. But it's television future. I think you see that line between digital and television blurring. It's so really it's going to be who are going to be the stars. We can probably name the stars on the YouTube side. There's not 1,000 of them, right? There's not 100. It's still, even though that environment is massive, it's still hard to separate yourself and to be found. So, like this network that I work for, an Outdoor Channel, Sportsman Channel, we've built this audience and we've helped our producers grow their following through that. And I think you'll see us do more of that as time goes on. I think you'll see, like I said, less concern about the linear delivery of a show. Like right now, you can get all of our networks through an app, through Friendly as a service that does it, Fubo, so you can watch them through digital streaming. And then I think what you'll see is, things like right now, My Outdoor TV is a subscription-based service. We'll probably have some ad-supported services where they're just going to be focused, where we may have an exclusive fishing channel that's available directly streaming instead of just the linear service and that. So, again, I think consumers they just want to watch what they want to watch, where they want to watch it. Yep. And that's where I think you'll see us starting to deliver more alternatives to that, as opposed to scheduled viewing, sit down, pay a premium and watch the traditional channel.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. I keep telling, keep advising our client base and the people that we work with the same way. Like it's kind of that dawn of the on-demand era, right? And what that really means is like people want to watch what they want to watch, where and how they want to watch it, right? On the platform of their choice or the device of their choice. And you hit the nail on the head, and it's cool that you guys are adapting to that and wading through it. I think you're right. If we knew the answer of what that was, what the future actually held, we'd all be retired, right? So,
right.
But it's great that you guys are at least looking ahead and thinking ahead and planning for it and making the right moves to, cater to this outdoor audience. It's definitely, I think the other side of it is it's going to continue to grow. I think that, again, there's always new hunters that are coming on. It's going to be interesting, I think, in the next 4 or 5 years to see how things do evolve. The thing about YouTube, like you said, is they could change the rules at any moment, and there's really nothing you could do. So it'll be interesting to see how it all sort of plays out. And, we're all, regardless, still going to be passionate outdoors guys, and we're going to consume that content somewhere, and some way or another, we're going to find it, right? So It's just being a provider of that. growing up, I always like to ask, what's your favorite memory, your favorite hunting experience that you remember growing up?
Um, I didn't come from a hunting family. We owned a lake cabin in southern Minnesota, so I fished all the time. And I had a guy, his name was Pork Allen, who had a son who was a few years younger than me, but he had a cabin a few doors down, and he was kind enough to take me fishing with him and his kid. I remember him giving me my first Bass Pro Shops catalog. I remember buying white spinner baits and purple worms because that's what were his like go-to, and took me some different lakes. So, I'm appreciative of experiences like that, and really have tried to offer that same type of experience to others who might not be as lucky. But I think one of my best ever and oldest hunting memories is there was a farm in Mankato, Minnesota, on the outskirts of town, and pretty sure we had permission to go there. I don't remember the specifics around it, but this was in probably 1983 or 84, maybe 85. I remember with my buddy, we had a couple of shotguns. We go out, we didn't know anything about what we were doing. But we went and we pushed this cornfield and we pushed it to this slough, and we didn't get anything up. And as we start walking towards each other, I hear something rustle in like the first or second row of corn. And all of a sudden this big rooster gets up, and I shoot it. And it's my first ever rooster. I'd killed rabbits before, killed squirrels before, probably killed a lot of Tweety birds with a BB gun as a kid that I shouldn't have, but I still remember that like it was yesterday. It was so cool. I think I was hooked from that moment forward.
And then you're hooked. Exactly. And I think it's those experiences, and it's great hearing your story coming from a non-hunting family, and educating yourself. And, a lot of it is just try and fail and try again. Right. So it's awesome to hear that. So thanks for sharing that. Any words of encouragement that you would give to somebody that's maybe new to the sport, that's just getting into hunting, and it might not necessarily be waterfowl related, just getting into the outdoors, hunting or fishing related? Sure. What would you say to that person?
Well, I think I was thinking of this when you were talking about Saskatchewan, and there is no better opportunity for you to spend quality time with your kids than there is to be. And okay, I'm sure somebody knows some other good things, but hunting for me has been perfect. 13 hours of windshield time driving up here, maybe it was like 12 hours to Saskatchewan with your kids, being up there in the field, having them see the work that goes into that, even though we may have had fast success. And we didn't limit out every time we did it. So they saw like the success and failure. My 20-year-old shot a turkey last weekend, and he shot it on the second day we hunted, but he had like 9 failures on that one day leading up to that one day of success. So I think hunting is just a great opportunity to share, to really help bond with your kids, share those experiences, connect with them. And if you're an adult getting into it with no kids, I mean, that's okay too, because there's just so much more to it than if you don't hunt or don't experience, haven't experienced it or understand the lifestyle. People will be like, oh, I couldn't see myself killing a deer. Most of them don't care as much about turkeys or geese or things like that. But the reality is, it's, as we all understand, hunting is so much more than just the act of shooting an animal. It's the preparation, man. Like I did my first archery elk hunt, and that too, I spent like 5 years prepping for it, not physically, because I hunted at a pretty flat place in New Mexico, but just shooting and preparing myself and watching TV shows and reading magazines. And it's like there's the way kids and technology are evolving, there's a lot of instant gratification in this space. And hunting and fishing, there's a lot of, you can have pretty quick success as well, but there's also a lot of things to learn, a lot of different levels of expertise. So I think it's just very healthy in general to participate in hunting and fishing. And I've always said I think the world would be a better place if more people fished and hunted. So bring them on. I will always take the opportunity whenever I can to bring somebody else, share the experience. I have a freezer full of meat because I've been to Texas twice this year. My son got me some fantastic goose jerky that he from his hunting. He just graduated from University of North Dakota, killed a bunch of geese up there. So we always share meat, and I love to cook it for people. And my sister, who is not a hunter, and she's about 10 years older than me in Iowa, she had hosted a wild game feed with meat that I gave her. First of all, I was like, how much meat did I give her? I didn't remember how much I gave her, but she said it was a huge success because it's all about the preparation. I guess that's the last plug I'll give on the network is in September, we actually have on outdoorchannel.com, if you look up Andrew Zimmern, who's a celebrity chef, I worked with Andrew and created a series called Andrew Zimmern's Wild Game Kitchen. And I'm telling you, watch his recipes because they're not super hard to create and to cook. And they're so good. He made some duck gumbo for us last year, and it started to rain at the end of the shoot. We went inside and we all got to eat his duck gumbo. It was super good. So we're really advocating that on the network as well, because even if you're an anti-hunter or a non-hunter, probably people support hunting for sustenance. So we like to show them and help people understand how to cook that wild game better.
That's awesome. And I know, like, just a little bit on, food shows, and there are some of the most watched shows that are out there. And I think letting people experience the after effects, right? The food, right? Of what wild game should be. And I think it would help as you stated, the non-hunters understand maybe a little bit more, and maybe even advocate for it if they were to just simply try it and see. Because the one thing about hunting, and specifically the food prep side of it, is we know where that animal came from, how it was harvested, we know the processing that it went through, and so on and so forth, from start to finish. And I think it's just such a difference. And I think as hunters, one thing we're always looking for is how can we introduce people to the taste of wild game of any type. Right. And having those access to those recipes, obviously with TV and the internet now, there's recipes galore. So I'd encourage you, if you're listening, I would encourage you to expose or challenge you to expose someone new to the taste of wild game. Just go out and research some of those recipes and try out some new ones for yourself.
Have you seen? I should mention as well the Provider by Chad Belding, who's the host of Fowl Life on Outdoor Channel. Chad Belding and Chad Mendez created this cooking brand called the Provider. They've got a cookbook, but we have content on our YouTube channel and on My Outdoor TV as well, and on our website. But Chad actually was the first guy that taught me how to cook a goose and make it appetizing. So goose get a bad rap, right? About their quality, and I would tell you that he made. We made like pulled goose breast tacos in the consistency of pulled pork, and it was so good. But I would say check out the Provider series and Chad Belding. I mean, that dude has forgotten more about duck hunting and cooking wild game than I'll probably ever know. So it's been fun to work with Chad on that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we'll have to check that out for sure. Well, awesome. Well, again, for those of you that are just tuning in here, maybe toward the end, check out the Outdoor Channel and some of their new cooking shows, and check out the Provider with Chad Belding as well. It's one of the new cooking shows that are out there, especially if you're in the market for just something unique and different, maybe a different flavor, or cooking something a little bit different. So you can have those opportunities to dabble those taste buds a little bit. Absolutely. So again, Mitch, I definitely want to thank you again for being here. Appreciate your time today. In closing, again, for those of you that are tuning in, I want to thank our listeners and our followers as well. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be able to keep doing this show. So we certainly do appreciate it. And thank you guys for tuning in and listening. And we look forward to having you on another episode of Knee Deep in the Duck Line. So Mitch, thanks so much for your time. And we'll have you on hopefully on another show here in the future. We appreciate it, man.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.